Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with the Spain news update. And there's a new twist in the spying scandal that has been dominating the press here in Spain in recent times, and it is that spyware has also been found on Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's phone. But more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel through a donation or by buying me a beer or a coffee. Many thanks for that. Thanks to people that bought merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your continuing support. Now, let's get into the news, and as I just mentioned, spyware has also been found on Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's phone. As we can see here, Sanchez and Robles' phones also spied on by Pegasus. There has been a twist in the Pegasus case. President Pedro Sanchez and the Minister of Defense Margarita Robles have also been spied on with the Israeli program, which, in theory, is only sold to governments and official agencies. The intrusions took place in May and June 2021 on Sanchez's mobile phone, and on the latter date on Robles' terminal. The hackers extracted an enormous amount of information from the head of government's phone, 2.6 gigabytes in the first intrusion and 130 megabytes in the second. The loot taken from the defense minister's mobile phone was much smaller, at least in terms of volume, 9 megabytes. The government does not yet know, however, what information was stolen and how sensitive it was, but in both cases it was their institutional, not private phones. So there we go. It seems like it's not only the Catalonians that are being spied on here in Spain, with the Pegasus spy software also being found on the Prime Minister's phone and the Minister of Defence's phone. So the mystery deepens. Now, we all know that motorists here in Spain have a 20 cent per litre rebate on fuel currently. It doesn't matter whether you are rich or poor, a Spanish resident or a foreign resident, anybody can get this rebate. But the government is now saying that if the rebate continues past July, there may be some changes. And as we can see here, the government is considering modifying the 20 cents per litre petrol rebate. The government itself acknowledges that the 20 cents per litre fuel rebate, which has been in force since April the 1st, was the quickest measure to implement but not the fairest. This aid was designed to immediately alleviate the enormous rise in fuel prices, which exceeded €2 per litre at many service stations. The third Vice President and Minister for Ecological Transition has announced that if this lasts, we will have to be more precise and more agile and allocate resources to those who need it most. This means that the subsidy could be maintained, but not as it has been until now, which applies to all consumers across the board, but only to a few. So the government's saying that if the fuel rebate continues, there are going to be some changes. And most likely the changes will be that only those who need it the most will be able to get the rebate, and not as it currently is, where anybody who fills up their car here in Spain gets the rebate. For example, Portuguese people cross the border and get the rebate, and French people cross the border and get the rebate. Now, the Andalusian Premier, Juan Manuel Moreno, announced last week that there are going to be elections in Andalusia before the summer, and current polls are suggesting that he could govern alone. And as we can see here, Moreno could rule alone in Andalusia because he has 11 seats more than the left. The president of the Junta de Andalusia, Juan Moreno, would come close to an absolute majority and could govern alone by winning up to 11 seats more than the entire left together, according to the latest GAD3 barometer for news. A scenario similar to that of last year's elections in Madrid that allowed Ayuso to rule without the help of Vox. The popular leader would thus manage to break 40 years of PSOE hegemony in Andalusia and clearly win an election for the first time. Susana Díaz's PSOE won the 2018 elections, but Moreno became president of the junta with one of the worst results ever achieved by the PP, thanks to a pact with Ciudadanos and the external support of Vox. So there we go, Andalusia, according to that poll, swinging to the right for the first time in 35 years. Now, yesterday, the 1st of May, was International Labour Day, and the labour market here in Spain is again in the spotlight. Because as we can see with this headline, the paradox of the Spanish labour market. Labour shortage with 3 million people unemployed. With more than 3 million unemployed, it is surprising that companies are having trouble finding workers in Spain. However, there are more than 109,000 unfilled positions in our country, according to the Employers Association for Small and Medium medium-sized enterprises, FEPIME, which warned a few weeks ago. Sectors such as construction, the hotel and catering industry, and the countryside are unable to find qualified staff to fill their vacancies, a trend that, if it continues to rise, could jeopardize not only the viability of businesses, but also the achievement of the investments committed to receiving European funds. But why is the labour market unable to respond to this demand? The main cause of this shortage of workers is the lack of training skills. So the paradox, as we saw, of the labour market here in Spain: 109,000 jobs that need to be filled, 3 million people unemployed, but companies say that people just don't have the skills to fill these jobs. Now, yesterday, the 1st of May, was also an important day for British residents here in Spain that don't have a Spanish driver's license, because now, legally, they are no longer able to drive here. And let's just say that people are pretty pissed off. As we can see here, I can't go to work. British expats fury after they are banned from driving in Spain and will have to pay up to £1,100 to take a test there after failure to reach a post-Brexit agreement on UK driving licenses. Furious British expats have blasted Spanish bureaucrats after they were banned from driving in Spain following a failure to reach a post-Brexit agreement on UK driving licenses. From today, tens of thousands of Brits living in Spain are banned from using their UK driving licence on Spanish roads, but this change does not apply to holidaymakers who are exempt from the new rule. Until now, Britons living in Spain have been able to use their DVLA-issued licences. Every other European country has now agreed a post-Brexit deal apart from Spain. According to US Which, passing your driving test in Spain is almost double the cost in the UK and averages between £700 and £1,100. And if we have a look at a comment from one angry expat posted on Facebook, we can see that's us screwed. Due to the pandemic, our TIEs were delayed and we didn't get them until the April after the deadline. I have no idea what we are going to do. We live up in the mountains in the middle of nowhere. Why on earth is this so hard? So British expats furious that a deal couldn't be done, and as we saw there, they're blaming Spanish bureaucrats. Every other European country managed to get a deal done, but Spain could not. And what was the reason for that? I don't know, but most likely it's because the people working on that deal are incompetent. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from previous videos. One here from Helen: the problems with tourists and alcohol is well known. Mostly the Spanish diet is good. Visits with my family, I eat in restaurants. Advising on healthy eating is not always negative. It's good the cap on renting. Housing is an issue. Yeah, Helen, thanks for the comment, and you're absolutely right. The problem with some tourists and alcohol is very, very well known indeed. You only have to go to some tourist resorts here in summer to realise that some people get absolutely blind. And that no doubt is why some hotels in the Balearic Islands are going to put limits on the amount of alcohol people can drink. I think the limit they're talking about is 6 drinks per day, 3 at lunchtime, and 3 with your dinner. And this is what the Balearic Island government hopes will fix the problem. And will it have the desired effect? Time will tell. One here from Marty: Spain's foreign debt is insane. The only way they'll have a chance of ever paying it back is by collecting more money. What other alternative is there? Unfortunately, the corrupt pollies will steal more than ever, and Spain's foreign debt will get worse. Así nos va. Yeah, Marty, thanks for the comment, and efectivamente, así nos va. Spain's foreign debt is enormous at the moment, and it gets worse on a yearly basis. There always seems to be one crisis or another that leads the government to borrow more money. And before people in the comment section start criticising me, yes, I am well aware of the fact that many countries around the world, not only Spain, have serious debt problems. So how is Spain, or any other country for that matter, going to pay back all that debt? I've got no idea, but if you've got a solution, please let us know in the comment section below. One here from Daz222: drink limits, headlines say the Balearics, Mallorca, etc. But if you look at the facts, it's not that widespread. For example, in Mallorca, the 6 drinks a day limit will only be in place in 11 hotels around Magaluf, 11 in the whole island. But the papers name all the islands or Spain. Madness! Yeah, Daz, thanks for the comment, and thanks for pointing it out that only 11 hotels or resorts on the island of Mallorca and close to the area of Magaluf are thinking of imposing this 6 drink per day rule. So only 11 of the hundreds of hotels that are on those islands. But as usual, various press outlets in the UK saying that it will apply to the whole of Spain. And that's the reason so many people get their knickers in a twist, because they get bad information. So always a good idea to investigate beyond the headline when it comes to these sensationalist newspapers. One here from Simon: if alcohol is thought to be cheap in Spain, it is half the price in Portugal. Must be the cheapest booze in Western EU. Yes, Simon, thanks for the comment, and you're right, both Spain and Portugal do have very cheap booze. But in my opinion, and as you know, I spend quite a bit of time in both countries, alcohol is cheaper in Spain than in Portugal, at least when it comes to supermarket prices. There's not a huge amount of difference, but I find Spain a little bit cheaper. It might not be the case when it comes to bars and restaurants, but when it comes to supermarkets, I think Spain's a little bit cheaper. But that's just my impression. And finally, one here from Stephen: also, congratulations on 60k, Stuart. Well done. Cheers, mate. Yes, Stephen, thanks for the comment, and thanks to everybody else who congratulated me on reaching 60,000 subscribers. Quite a milestone, at least for me, and to be honest, I never thought I'd get this far. So a huge thanks to everybody that has subscribed to the channel over the years, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, hit that subscribe button. On that note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.